Well, hello there, family. You're listening to Fired Up Freedom with Steve Ryan. Fired Up Freedom. All right. Do you ever look for certain services or products and it's just hard to find and you want to know if someone else has used that before? Well, visit my resources page, steveryan.com/resources, steveryan.com/resources. So today we're going to be talking about what do you do when you're not getting results? All right, this is a really good topic. What we've talked about this week so far, I'll tell you what we talked about leading up to this topic. Monday, we talked about how do you build meaningful connections. Tuesday, we talked about how do you get past analysis paralysis. Wednesday, we talked about how do you be effective with your time. Yesterday, we talked about affiliates. I gave you guys a lot of things you can do to get started right away, where you can start finding affiliates and how to grow that income. And then today, we're going to be talking about what do you do when you're not getting results. Now, for anyone who's joining for the first time, the way that these normally go, I have some notes. Usually, I'll talk for about 10 minutes. To 20 at the most. It just depends, unless it's going on and on. Yesterday, we kind of went to 30. And then I open up the floor to if anyone have any questions, suggestions, comments, or if they have something they want to share about the topic. If no one comes up, we close early and I hang out on TikTok with some music. If people come up, we go no longer than an hour. We stop at the top of the hour. All right. And even then I'll come and hang out on TikTok for a little bit. Other than that, this is it. We'll go ahead and get this started. So welcome everybody. Happy Friday to you. So why is this important to freedom? To your freedom, whatever freedom you're trying to achieve. Because if you're going forward, you're not getting results, that could lead to giving up. That could lead to being discouraged. That could lead to, not going forward on your journey in an effective way. So this one is a very, very touchy subject for some people because, it's going to require honesty with yourself. I wrote down 3 acronyms for this. I call it the triple E's. The first E is for evaluate. The second E is for emerge. The third E is for evolve. And of course, I'm going to talk about each one of these. This is what I personally use for myself. When I see what I'm bringing to the table here doing these series, I look back at my history and I said, okay, at times that I did not feel like I was getting results, what did I do to make results happen? What results did I want? I questioned all this and then I looked at what was my process. And these were the 3 steps that I did: evaluate, emerge, and evolve. So I'm going to explain all this. This is not going to be a very long one today, actually. All right. Evaluate is the very, very first thing. And the most important piece to this, in my opinion, is honesty. Being honest with yourself. Being honest to say, okay, you know what? This isn't working the way I want. So, that's the first step, because sometimes we can be in denial. Sometimes we can make excuses. One of the biggest excuses that I remember, my father saying, rest in peace, is, if you're Black, you're going to have to get lucky. We're going to have to get lucky with things. Everything's against us. The odds are against us. And I get it. I understand that sometimes there's situations, there's disadvantages, no matter who you are. To me, it's about green. If you're not born in the 1% or political powerful, then it's us, the have and the have nots. But that's just my opinion, regardless of race and ethnicity. But to me, I just don't believe in excuses. I believe that we all, no matter where we start, we can all get to a place to where we move forward. And that's just my personal belief. That's my mindset. So evaluating involves being honest with yourself about, is this working? And before you can even do that, we go back to something we've talked about before. What are you wanting to achieve? What kind of result are you wanting to achieve? And why do you want to achieve it? Is it a financial reason? Is it a different reason? What's your motivation? How do you know how to measure if you're getting results? Are you making an assumption too quickly? You know what I mean? Does it just need more time? What are you basing getting results on? See, that's going to vary person to person. You know, if you're someone who says, hey, I want to get 1 million followers, okay, then what? All right, you get 1 million followers and then what? I've gotten 1 million followers before on my Facebook. So I know that was before TikTok and all that, but still, that wasn't where I made my most money at. You see what I'm saying? I made more money off my email list, which was significantly smaller than that. You see what I mean? So what's the result? Is the result just being able to say you have so many following just to say, hey, I got this many followers, I'm cool now? I know a lot of people with millions of followers that are not making money right now. Trust me. Right now, they're not making money. You know, some are, but not all. So the point that I'm making here is you have to ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? What kind of result do you want? And how are you going to measure that result? You see what I'm saying? These are important things. You don't have to know the answers when you get started, but at least asking these questions, it will allow you to look along the way in terms of filling those answers in. And even if you have some answers, be open to the answers evolving and changing as you get more information. So this is the very, very, very first thing that comes to mind with evaluate. The other thing to evaluate is evaluating your situation, evaluating the factors around you. You know, let's say you were someone who opened up a business in the middle of the pandemic and shutdowns. Would that be a real accurate evaluation if you know you're starting something while things are in a not the best, you know, environmental situation? You see what I mean? So that's why I'm saying evaluating and looking at all these details is very, very important. I'll tell you why. Because when you get to a moment where you feel like nothing's happening, I'm not getting results. Okay, did you start things in that time that wasn't the best, you know, the best time to start it? Okay, then maybe you need more time to make it work. Did you know that before you went forward with whatever you're trying to do? See, all these things are important. All right. So that's evaluating. Let's move on to emerge. You know, I looked up I knew what emerge meant in my mind, my version of it, but I looked up the technical definition of emerge because it was so close to evolve. And I was like, what's the difference between emerge and evolve? And I'm going to tell you what the difference is of what I saw it was. When I looked up the technical definition of emerge, it says to move out of or away from something and come into view. That's what emerge means, to move out of something. And evolve is more of like growth, change. It could be doing something different or whatever angle. But they were so close that I had to look at what's the difference between the two. All right. So emerge, when I look at emerge, you have to know when to change directions or when to cut something off. When to, you know, if you see that you're not getting results and you keep trying the same thing and, you know, you see what I'm saying? At what point do you stop what you're doing and try something else? Or at what point do you decide to just, you know, maybe go deeper into it? That's the other version of emerge, jumping into it and like, I'm not giving up on this. This is how I like to look at things. When we know why we're doing what we're doing, when we know what we're going after, we know like what results we're trying to get, that helps us to kind of look at this each moment to moment. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit because I need to make it all fit together. I'm going to move on to evolve and then we'll mix the two. Evolve is, do you need to pivot? Do you need to change? Maybe it's your strategy. Maybe it's the way you're approaching it. You see, what will impact these things is information. This is why it's important to network with people. This is why it's important to make sure that you're exposing yourself to information that can help provoke thought in you that may make you look at things from a different angle. You know, I'm going to tell you, like, when I make music, I want to give an example here. Let's say I'm making meditation music. I'm just going to give an example. If something isn't already in my head, and let's say I want to get inspired, I might go listen to heavy metal. I know that sounds odd. Or I might go listen to some punk rock or some hip hop or something. The reason why is because a lot of times I like to put myself into something different than what I'm doing. And that helps provokes even more creative thoughts in my mind to make me approach what I'm doing even more unique. You see what I mean? So maybe if you're in the middle of doing something, let's say you're trying to get a certain result, and let's say you're doing A, B, and C business. Maybe you can go and look at what other people are doing. You see what I'm saying? Even if it's a different business model or something different, to see what can I get from this? What can I learn from this? I'm going to tell you what helped me, for example, with TikTok. At first, I wasn't focused on TikTok as much. I was just like, oh, my TikTok is just there, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? I might post here and there. And then some of the bigger influencers, they were giving me some tips of what I should do. So there was a time I was like posting every day and stuff, a few times a day. And the account really wasn't growing. It went from like 3,000 to maybe 4,000 people. But something that helped me I finally looked at TikTok, because we were having a meeting in the giraffes in our coffee, and they were talking about TikTok, like, oh yeah, TikTok is a great thing now, it's popping, and so everyone was like, yeah, we're gonna start posting on our TikToks. Well, that kind of turned something in my mind to say, okay, well, let me look at my TikTok. Have I really looked at growing my TikTok? What am I doing? And so something that made me change my strategy and approach on TikTok was actually Twitter. I looked at what I was doing on Twitter with Twitter Spaces, how I was connecting to people, how like whenever I actually wanted like a larger space on Twitter, the way I would reach out and collaborate with other people. Like if I want a large space, I can get a large space, but that's not what I'm targeting. I want quality, spaces. I'm not saying larger spaces isn't quality, but at the time when I was doing the Twitter, it was all about sell spaces. People come in and share, sometimes there was 500 people in there, 300 people in there, sometimes I had this stuff, a whole lot of people in there. But I got to a point where I said, I want to do topics that I want to talk about. I want to do topics that resonate. I want to do topics that I know I want to do podcasts on and other things on. So I started coming up with these different topics and changing how the spaces were done. And I knew it was going to be like starting over. I knew that. I didn't care. But I said, how did I make my spaces successful on Twitter? And how I did that was through collaborating. So I said, I haven't been collaborating on TikTok. I haven't really been, leaning into the community on TikTok. So that one little change that I did of starting to connect to other creators on TikTok in a more proactive way, showing them more support, that actually was the biggest significant difference in my TikTok growing. And now it's like in less than a month, I don't know what I'm at now, 27,000, 28,000, something like that. I had my first video hit over 1 million views. I haven't had that before on TikTok. So, and the biggest change that I did was I started connecting with other creators the same way I did with people on Twitter. And it's working. It's literally working right now. I'm building great relationships. I'm supporting a lot of people on there. They're supporting me as well. And it's a really beautiful thing. I'm probably going to do a whole session just on TikTok a different day. But the point that I'm making is I wasn't doing that. So I had to evaluate and say, what am I not doing on TikTok? Why am I not seeing growth there now that I want growth? What am I doing? What am I not doing? I evaluated it. I was honest with myself. You see what I'm saying? And then I decided to emerge, which was, I had to get out of my way of thinking of, just post just to post. It's not about posting just to post. Corey ASMR, he's one of my friends in real life. He has like 1 million followers on TikTok. He really, 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 really helped me because he said, Steve, I don't know what your page is about. I'm looking at your page. He said, hey, I can help you out with your page if you want me to. And I said, sure. So he looked at my TikTok. He was giving me some pointers and he was like, Steve, I don't know what your page is about. I'm confused. What are you doing? So that gave me an idea. I said, well, I'm going to make a video about what the page is about. And that's what I did. And that video is the video that hit over 1 million views. And then he does a lot of covers on his pages. So I started making covers on my TikToks to let people know what the topics are about. I started putting it in certain playlists, where you have your singing, then you have your motivational words of wisdom, and then you have your vlog. Those were my 3 categories. I didn't want to do more than that, just to keep it simple. But the point is, I made that change. If I was like, oh, I'm not going to listen to what he's saying, oh, whatever, I'm going to do, then I wouldn't have been open to making that change. So a combination of that, a combination of building relationships on TikTok. Teddy has also helped me a lot. He has, I don't know how many followers he have, maybe 2 million or something between his 4 TikToks. But he gave me a suggestion about using an iPhone. But the lighting is better. And I noticed a difference on my video performances when I switched to start using the iPhone versus using just the Android. I have a newer Android now that is competitive with the iPhone. But the point that I'm making is, if I didn't evaluate what was going on and be open to changing and being open to evolving, my TikTok would not be growing. So the point that I'm making to you is that this strategy that I'm telling you about can really apply to anything you're doing. Fired Up Freedom will be right back after these messages. Do you ever have moments where you feel stress, anxiety, or it's hard to sleep? Then meditation may be the perfect thing to help you. Come and join our meditation channel where there's 24 hours a day on-demand meditation music. Go to steveryan.com/meditation. That's steveryan.com/meditation. It's time to have freedom from the noise. So for anyone who's joining us, I've been talking about what do you do when you're not getting results? How do you shift and change? And what I personally do is the 3 E's: evaluate, emerge, and evolve. Always, one of the biggest things that was hard for me when it comes to evolving is when I put so much work into something a certain way, and I'm like, wow, I put work into this way. And then I come across some information. It's like, oh, I need to change how I'm doing this, but I'm gonna have to go and do all this. That can seem discouraging, but it's worth it. Like, take my podcast. My podcast was called Fired Up Fridays. I did I don't know how many episodes. I have some unreleased episodes. And so since I was on this freedom, all about freedom, I said, okay, the idea came up, change it to Fired Up Freedom instead of Fired Up Friday. So the reason why more episodes haven't come out yet is because I had to go back to all the previous episodes, change all the graphics, get all that changed over. It was a complete rebrand. I didn't want to do it, but it's taken over a month to do this. It was a lot of stuff, going back into the episodes, changing, getting all the openings and everything changed so that it says Fired Up Freedom instead of Fired Up Friday. I didn't feel like doing that, but I had to do it because Fired Up Friday was not in alignment with the brand. Fired Up Freedom was in alignment with the brand. You see what I'm saying? So the point that I'm making to you is these 3 E's. I do this all the time: evaluate, emerge, and evolve. All right. So in closing here, and then anyone who wants to come up and contribute to the conversation or ask questions or share how you deal with, making adjustments when things aren't working or you're not getting the results that you want, feel free to come up. In closing here, just remember, nobody's perfect. You got this. As long as you're trying, that's all that matters. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just the wrong timing. Sometimes you can have everything right and it just doesn't hit. And then someone else can come along and do the same thing and it hits off. Some of those things are out of our control. But I'm a big, big believer that if we put the energy towards something, we have the right mindset and we take the actions, we're going to get some kind of results. It may be a week, it may be a day, it may be a month, it may take a year. Who knows? But if we're open to pivoting and changing and moving forward and being honest with ourselves every step along the way, I really do feel we can make that shift. Now, there's a lot more information I could go over, but today I just wanted to specifically focus on this. This is more of like a mindset shift when you're not getting results, to be open to pivoting. So that's what I have for you today. So if anyone want to come up and, say hi, speak about it or comment about it, feel free to put in a request. If not, we will keep it rocking and rolling. In the meantime, let me check the comments. Oh, good morning to you too, Nancy. AJ, thank you. Freedom. Thank you, Annie. Good afternoon to you too as well. All right. And hey, BB over there, reigning inside Raptor, Utu, Ben, Ukar. Hey to everybody that's been in here. Hey, Kirill, user 487, Robin, K Strong, Daniel, Bill. Hey to everyone. Hey to everybody on Instagram. I can't see you all's over there. So if there's any other questions or any comments, let me know. In the meantime, while I'm giving y'all space for that, let me tell you what's coming up next week. This is going to be awesome. I actually did not pin it up. So what's coming up next week is this. All right. Let me just pin that up. There we go. That's pinned to the top now. So on Monday, we're going to be talking about how do you choose yourself and should you? On Tuesday, we're going to be talking about how do you develop a strategy that fits for you? On Wednesday, we're going to talk about how does your mindset create financial freedom? On Thursday, we're going to talk about is failure really failure? And then on Friday, we're going to talk about how do you move energy? So these are going to be some amazing topics coming up. They're already scheduled on Clubhouse as well. So for those of you who are on Clubhouse, you can just go and see that coming up. On Twitter, it's already scheduled ahead of time. On Clubhouse, I'm going to go ahead and put the link up for next week. In case any of you want to go ahead and set your notification for that. There we go. I'm just doing a copy and paste here, and then we're good to go. There we go. All right, copy and paste. There we go, copy. All right, hopefully this will paste without me having to type it out. Changing the link up here. All right, there we go. And paste. There we go. All right. The room is now up. There we go. I see it popped up. On Twitter, you should see it at the top there. All right. For those of you on the live streams, just go to steveryan.com/spaces. If you want to come in on, see, I'm going to hold up the Twitter phone right now. See all these people in here? These are people that's on Twitter Spaces right now that you can actually see. This is where if someone wants to talk, they either talk on here or they talk on Clubhouse. And we do like an exchange. They may talk, they may make suggestions, ask questions, share their part, things like that. And Clubhouse is the same. Those icons are profiles. All of these topics that I've been talking about with you all, they all connect. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to get to your freedom, whether it's financial freedom, mindset freedom, it's a very complex thing. It's an ever evolving thing. It's a combination of these topics. It's not going to be a one day thing. You might have a day where it's like, okay, I really feel what he's saying. But really, this is like, think about this like building blocks. Of course, there's way more information, but we have to start from somewhere. And so in closing, I just want you to remember the 3 E's: evaluate, emerge, and evolve. You have to be willing to evolve. Cool. All right. Well, that's it.
Running from myself at times I can't describe the words I try, the fear